This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology. The images are for illustration purposes only. The 9 swords sword picture formed in the air, and the sea of sword chi spread out, filling the sky with a rain of swords. Sword cloud rain. Yunxiao murmured. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the entire sky was covered by his sword chi. There was nothing else in the world except for a huge sword talisman and a sky full of sharp swords. The martial supremes in the sword diagram could not even withstand a single blow and exploded on the spot. The low-level martial sovereigns also looked horrified and struggled to hold on. Many of them were seriously injured. Bang! Bang! The 2 sword shadows pierced through the 2 low-level martial emperor powerhouses and they died on the spot. Yunxiao just stood quietly in the street, one hand in a sword incantation gesture, allowing the sword chi to dance in the sky. If not for the wooden frame over his head, he would have been able to enjoy the scene. After the shock, the people of Ink Feather Merchant Association finally revealed a look of joy, as if they had seen a ray of hope. Ziling was even more stunned. Although she had never seen the battle in the sky above Red Moon City, she was there at the time. As a martial lord, she had also felt the earth-shaking essence energy fluctuation spreading throughout the city. After the incident, Yunxiao's deeds were spread all over the streets, and he had become a peerless figure in her mind. But never in her dreams did she expect that the person she had saved so casually would be the world's most famous and the most powerful man of the younger generation. Her current mood was indescribable, or rather, she was not in any mood at all. She was just standing there in a daze. Madame Ji found it hard to think. She was calculating quickly in her heart how she could make the best friend with Yunxiao. Of course, she was sure to give Ziling away, and she had also made plans to transfer the resources she had planned to contribute to Xian Tongtong. Shuai Xingqiao was also shocked. He finally understood why the other party was so arrogant. He had always thought that this kid was young and naive, but he really had the capital. Such a peerless figure, even the 7 super forces would fight to win him over. It was laughable that he wanted to recruit him as a guest elder. How embarrassing. He couldn't help but smile wryly. At the same time, his eyes were filled with joy. The Xian family had provoked this person, and it was likely that they would not have a good ending. This might be a great opportunity to change the power structure of Long Valley City. Xian Zuren was finally shocked. He immediately understood that he had encountered a tough bone. Under the rain of swords, the entire Xian clan's mainstays had been killed. Bastard, stop! He roared and rushed down from the sky. A small umbrella appeared in his hand and he opened it. A large number of beautiful patterns appeared on the umbrella and spread in the air. A defensive barrier was opened, protecting the Xian family warriors who were still alive. With a sneer, Yunxiao changed his hand seal, and the sword talisman in the sky changed as well. The rain of swords that filled the sky instantly condensed into the shape of a huge sword, which slashed at the small umbrella. Xian Zuren's face was filled with shock. His hands quickly formed seals and directly hit the umbrella. The umbrella immediately changed. It took on a myriad of colors and became extremely sturdy. Boom! The sword-shaped object slammed into the umbrella and actually shattered, turning into a sky full of light and shadows. Yunxiao frowned slightly, then looked at the small umbrella in surprise. It seemed to be much more powerful than he had expected. Shuai Xingqiao's voice was transmitted over, "Lord Yunxiao, this umbrella is called the Origin Parasol. It's an extremely famous 9th-tier defensive profound artifact and is very famous in the entire eastern region." Yunxiao turned his head slightly, and the wooden frame also turned toward Shuai Xingqiao. The latter showed a friendly smile, obviously wanting to make friends. Yunxiao changed the incantation gesture in his hand, and the Divine Realm tablet flew out of his right hand, emitting a brilliant light. The earth and territory spread out, and the infinite gravity gathered on one point and smashed toward the umbrella. No profound level weapon could withstand the pressure of infinite weight. After the small umbrella had held on for a moment, the gravity was still being endlessly derived. The intersection of the 2 profound level weapons became a singularity. The surrounding space revolved around this singularity and was twisted out of shape, beginning to break apart layer by layer. Stop. Xianzhuan was shocked. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he watched in disbelief as the light on the small umbrella was broken layer by layer. He was on the verge of collapsing. Such a situation had never happened before. Even a high-level martial emperor could not break his Yuan Yang umbrella without a powerful profound-level weapon, but Yun Shao had done it. Xianzhuan's heart was overwhelmed with shock. This supreme Yang umbrella was the flesh and blood of his heart, even more important than his son. If it was broken, only God knew if it could be repaired. Young Master Yun Shao, he called out hurriedly, hurry up and help me. Let's talk this out. Yun Shao turned a deaf ear to it. A few incantation seals flew into the Divine Realm tablet, and its weight increased even more rapidly. Finally, the defense of the Supreme Sun umbrella was completely crushed, and a deafening noise was heard. Boom. The umbrella crumbled into a skeleton in the air, and a large number of Xian artifact fragments flew and scattered in all directions. This time, everyone was shocked. Everyone was stunned, including Xianzhuan himself. He had never thought that his Supreme Yang umbrella would actually break. Shuai Xingqiao was even more surprised and happy. He was surprised because he was naturally clear about the power of the Supreme Yang umbrella as a member of the Shuai family. It was impossible to break it. He was happy because without the Supreme Yang umbrella, Xianzhuan's strength would decline by a large margin. After breaking the umbrella, Yun Shao did not stop at all. He changed his hand gesture again, and the wind territory spread out. Streams of primordial astral wind appeared in the sky and blew directly at the surviving Xian family members. Wherever the strong wind passed, the martial emperor powerhouses who were already seriously injured immediately turned into fossils and lost their lives in an instant. They fell from the sky and shattered into pieces. Everyone's hair stood on end as they watched the scene. The lives that had fallen were the lives of martial sovereigns of the ninth heaven. Were the scenes in front of them real? After the Supreme Yang umbrella was broken, Xianzhuan immediately tried his best to resist the power of the astral wind. The entire high-end martial force of the Xian family was almost destroyed. Now, only he and another uncle were left. He was a peak 5-star martial emperor, and his uncle, Xian Shoshing, was a 6-star existence. Such a powerful force was actually unable to save his own subordinates. He could only watch helplessly as they were killed one by one. His eyes were already about to pop out of their sockets. Damn it! The two of them shouted almost at the same time. Xian Shoshing's essence force burst out, and a burst of extreme chi directly split the power of the immemorial astral wind and hit the Divine Realm tablet. Yun Shao pointed a finger at the Divine Realm tablet, and it returned to his hand as he said indifferently, there are 2 left. It's a little troublesome. No matter who you are, you will die today. Xianzhuan clenched his fist and threw a punch from the air. He shouted, strength can overcome 10 techniques. Even martial sovereigns aren't trash. It's useless no matter how you transform. I'm a piece of trash, Yun Shao sneered. What are these dead people of your Xian family? Shit? The Thousand Autumn's tyrannical saber appeared in his hand, and he immediately cut a path through the fist radiance as he soared into the sky. Xian Shoshing had been waiting in the sky for a long time. He closed his 5 fingers together and chopped down like a hand knife. His power was even greater than Xianzhuan's. Yun Xiao's saber trembled, and the shadow of a corpse puppet emerged as he slashed at it with his saber. Bang! He was immediately at a disadvantage after the attack and was sent flying backward. Golden light appeared on his body. It was the imperishable golden body that automatically appeared. It absorbed all of the Yuan power that had entered his body, and only a part of it was turned into an attack to destroy his body. A line of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Everyone around was shocked. No matter how freakish Yun Shao was, it was impossible for him to be fine after taking a palm strike from a 6-star martial emperor. Xian Shoshing was also shocked and said angrily, how is that possible? Humph. Yun Shao snorted with a cold smile. Just a martial supreme. Only? You're really shameless. Xanswerin said sarcastically, I admit that you're very talented, and you have many heaven-defying profound level weapons. However, it doesn't mean that you can become a martial supreme just because you're talented. There are no lack of amazing geniuses in history, but there are also many geniuses who are stuck outside the threshold of a martial supreme. Since you think so highly of the realm of a nine heavens martial sovereign, I'll make it for you, Yunxiao said coldly. Be careful, and don't let your eyes fall out. Xanswerin was stunned, not understanding what he meant. No one understood. What did he mean by, I'll show you? Just as everyone was in a daze, a strange phenomenon suddenly appeared in the sky. A red glow filled the sky, dyeing the entire Long Valley city red. A strange phenomenon suddenly occurred, and the people in the city were shocked. They ran to the street and stopped to look. Amidst the red glow, a streak of extremely bright color suddenly came from the sky and struck directly on Yunxiao's head, then poured into his forehead. The wooden frame suddenly shattered at this moment, and a handsome face was revealed. His eyes were like the stars in the sky, his eyebrows were like willow leaves, and his angular face was calm. It was as if he did not care about the unusual phenomenon in front of him and the fact that he had advanced to the martial supreme realm. Everyone was shocked. They finally understood what he meant when he said, I'll step in and let you see. Who did not prepare all kinds of medicinal pills, essence cores, and auxiliary mystic artifacts when they broke through to the martial supreme realm? If they had a sect, it would be their top priority, with all the experts guarding them. But Yunxiao was so calm, as if he had just ordered a few dishes and was eating them. This completely changed everyone's view on advancing to the martial supreme realm. It was rumored that it was the most difficult hurdle in the martial Tao. Many geniuses were stuck at the peak of the 9 stars martial supreme realm for their entire lives, unable to make any further progress. In the end, they would regret it for the rest of their lives. All martial honors would slow down their cultivation after entering the 8 Desolates realm to lay a solid foundation. Then, they would look for all kinds of natural treasures and elixirs in preparation for breaking through to the martial supreme realm. Even so, there were still very few powerhouses who could comprehend the rules of heaven and earth and advance to the 9 heavens martial sovereign realm. But now, Yunxiao's breakthrough seemed to be easier than advancing to a 1-star martial emperor. A question mark appeared in everyone's mind as they asked themselves, is this fake? But, the powerful aura that kept surging out of Yunxiao's body woke them up. The scene in front of them was by no means an illusion. This guy was really advancing to a martial sovereign. The laws of heaven and earth emerged, and the emperor aura of the 9 heavens gathered. Yunxiao's body began to flash with golden light. At this moment, not only was the elemental energy in his body undergoing a qualitative change, but even his physical body was undergoing a subtle change. The imperishable golden body seemed to have begun to leap towards a higher level. At this moment, Yunxiao had nothing to hide. Once he became a martial emperor, the martial intent and Tao heart of a peerless expert would immediately return, and he could fight anyone in the world. Not good. We can't let him become a martial supreme. Xanswerin broke out in a cold sweat. Such a terrifying talent had already brought great fear to Xanswerin. For thousands of years, when had he ever heard of such a terrifying talent? Given time, or even just a few years, the remaining 2 people in the Xan family might not be able to suppress him anymore. Today's battle was the life and death of the family. Xan Shoshing also instantly came to a realization. A green lizard-like soldier's claw hurriedly appeared in his hand, and he stepped on the strange phenomenon and rushed up. He shouted, Brahma Sea Claw. Breaking through to the martial supreme realm was an extremely dangerous hurdle, especially after triggering the heaven and earth phenomenon. If there was even the slightest disturbance, it was very likely that all efforts would be in vain. However, the most difficult part of the whole process was to trigger the natural phenomenon. As long as he could condense the nomological Emperor Qi, with someone protecting him, and he had prepared various medicinal pills, there would generally be no problem. Yunxiao had passed the most difficult stage very smoothly triggering the natural phenomenon. But now, he was going to face Xan Shoshing and Xanswerin, which was obviously a situation of certain death. Everyone was dumbfounded. They did not understand why Yunxiao wanted to break through to the martial supreme realm at this time. Even if he was talented and a genius from ancient and modern times, there was no need to take his life as a joke. Xian Xiuxing's claw came down from the sky, ignoring the power of rules emanating from Yunxiao's body and stabbing directly at his vital parts. At this moment, apart from the shock that filled the entire place, there were also a few people who were at a loss. They were the people from the Shui family who were hiding in the dark and peeking. Yunxiao's heaven-defying talent had also deeply shocked them. If he were to grow up in the future, he would become an extremely terrifying existence. If they could save him now, they would benefit endlessly in the future. However, the premise was that he could survive under the joint efforts of Xianzuren and his nephew. Judging from the current situation, the possibility was extremely low. After all, too many people from the Xian family had died, and Xianzuren and his nephew were in a desperate state at the moment. If Yunxiao failed to save them, they would surely suffer heavy casualties if they rushed out to block the Xian family's attack. Should he make a move? The people in control of the Shui family who were hiding in the dark were almost at a loss. Xian Xiuxing's attack arrived, and the red mist was broken apart, as if it was about to disperse. If the heaven and earth phenomenon disappeared and failed to condense, it would be a failure. Yunxiao's face was calm, as if he did not know the seriousness of the matter at all. He stepped lightly on the ground and dodged the attack with extremely strange steps. Then, he raised the 1,000-year saber in his hand and slashed it across the air. Humph. Xian Xiuxing coldly snorted and changed the direction of his claw, directly blocking the attack. Bang. As the two weapons clashed, Yunxiao was knocked back repeatedly. His arm glowed with a golden light, dissolving all the force that had rushed into his body. At this moment, Xianzuren also rose into the air and descended like a big bird. In his hand was still the shattered Supreme Yang umbrella. Although only its skeleton was left, it still shot out rays of fierce qi, turning into a sky-covering slash. Yunxiao pointed at the air with his left hand, and the Northern Heaven Cold Star swords flew out and collided with the flying blades in front of him, producing a series of crisp sounds. Sword Cloud Rain. Yunxiao performed an incantation gesture with both hands, and the 9 swords condensed into a sword diagram. In an instant, a sea of sword qi was formed, crushing toward the uncle and nephew of the Xian family. The people around him were shocked. He was comprehending the rules of heaven and earth while condensing the emperor qi of the 9 heavens, but he could still fight calmly. Not only that, in a situation where he was obviously at a disadvantage, he still wanted to restrain both of them with one move at the same time. He was really arrogant without limits. Xianzuren was also mad with anger as he roared, "Arrogance is the reason you're going to die today." The umbrella frame in his hand opened and flew out, shooting out countless beams of sword qi that destroyed all the swords in the sky and then fell directly on Yunxiao. The Yuan Yang umbrella was not only strong in defense, but also a powerful killing profound-level weapon. It rushed directly into the 9 swords formation, trying to break the sword picture. Yunxiao's face flickered slightly, and a faint sword light burst out of his body. With a point of his finger, 2 more swords flew out and rushed directly into the sword formation. In an instant, the momentum of the swords changed greatly. The 11 northern sky cold swords formed a strange pattern in the sky and swallowed the skeleton of the Yuan Yang umbrella. Xianzuren was instantly shocked. The profound-level weapon that was linked to his life had suddenly disappeared without a trace, and he could not even sense it at all. Moreover, the sky was completely enveloped by an extremely powerful sword intent, and its aura was still rising. It was a great burden for Yunxiao to control 11 swords at once. Fortunately, the natural phenomena kept pouring into his body to support the endless consumption. The sea of swords derived from the 11 swords was far from reaching its limit, but it was already the limit of his control. A strange sword rune slowly fell in the center of the sword picture. The uncle and nephew of the Xian family were shocked. The essence emitted by the sword talisman made them feel a wave of shock. Yunxiao sighed. This was all he could do with his ability. He clenched his fist and said, "Explode." That strange sword talisman instantly bloomed with a golden light, and the 11 swords lit up one by one. A terrifying sea of swords revolved around the sword talisman, and a violent force gushed out like a volcano that had just erupted. Boom boom boom. With the sword talisman and the 11 long swords as the center, a sea of swords exploded instantly. Thousands of sword chi swept across the sky, cutting the entire sky into countless pieces. Damn it! Xianzhuan gritted his teeth. Even with his strength, he felt abnormally terrifying in the sword cloud that filled the sky. He didn't dare to be careless. Xianzhuan let out an angry roar as he rushed up against the exploding sword cloud, trying to tear Yunxiao into pieces. After that, Yunxiao frowned slightly and ignored them. Instead, he focused on comprehending the laws and condensing his emperor qi. His long hair fluttered in the air, and his entire body was surrounded by a red glow. In contrast, the uncle and nephew of the Xian family were in a sorry state, and it was difficult to tell who was the stronger one. Just as Xianzhuan's face turned ashen and he was circulating his qi to resist the sword cloud, an extremely violent attack suddenly came from a distance and came from an unknown angle. It directly bombarded his body, breaking through his protective Xinyuan and entering his body, starting to wantonly destroy his body's functions. At the same time, a huge ball appeared in the sky and fell with a rumble, crushing everything. Damn it, it was actually the marshal's prestige. You despicable man. Xianzhuan shouted at the top of his lungs. His eyes were filled with fear and shock. Upon closer inspection, he realized that the falling object was not a ball, but a huge iron hammer. It had directly suppressed the space, leaving him no way to escape. At this moment of life and death, all the potential in his life was unleashed. A 6-star martial emperor was already in existence that could run amok in the world. The lizard-like claws were unsealed in an instant and turned into a terrifying beast head that bit at the iron hammer. However, Xianzhuan, who had used up a lot of his energy and was injured, was no match for Martial Wei's full-powered strike. Moreover, the soldier claw was a light Xian artifact. When it collided with the mountain-like iron hammer, it instantly disintegrated. Bang bang bang. The entire weapon claw was turned into fragments. The huge iron hammer suddenly smashed onto Xianzhuan's body, causing him to fall. Boom. A huge crater was formed on the ground. It was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. That Xianzhuan was definitely going to be turned into a pile of meat. Xianzhuan's hand went cold from head to toe. The Shui family had secretly attacked, and the Xian family was already doomed. He didn't even care about being angry. He directly turned into a ray of light, flickering with scarlet blood, and fled at an extremely fast speed. Not good, it's the blood escape technique. Xianzhuan. The Shui family's people exclaimed in the air. They couldn't allow Xianzhuan to escape. Otherwise, if a 5-star martial emperor took revenge, he would be a great disaster. However, Xianzhuan used an escape technique that burned his blood. Although it wasn't as freakish as the blood god, it still passed in the blink of an eye. Just as the faces of the Shui family members turned ashen and thought that they couldn't catch up, a mirror light suddenly shone over. Yunxiao raised the mirror of evening clouds in his hand, which emitted a warm bronze light that instantly froze Xianzhuan's fleeing light, making him pause for a moment. Even though it was only for a moment, it was enough. Several people from the Shui family directly emerged from the void. They stacked all kinds of space sealing techniques on top of each other and instantly trapped Xianzhuan. Xianzhuan's blood escape had already injured his roots, and when he saw that he couldn't escape, he was instantly filled with shock and anger. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his eyes were filled with hatred. He stared at the Shui family members around him and said with hatred, "Our two families have been friends for so many years. You guys are really ruthless." The leader of the Shui family was the family head, Shui Junwei. He sneered, "So ruthless? If it was your Xian family, would you give up such a great opportunity? I believe that Long Valley City will become even more prosperous under our Shui family's control, so you can go without worry." You bastards. Xianzhuan roared in despair, "You're just adding insult to injury. I won't let you off even if I die." A terrifying aura suddenly came from his dantian. His body seemed to expand in an instant, and he quickly pounced towards Shui Junwei. Not good, he's going to self-destruct. Marshal Junwei was scared out of his wits. Even if the self-destruction of a 5-star martial emperor did not kill him, he would be half dead at the very least. In a hurry, the hammer in his hand instantly turned into a small mountain in front of him. Boom. Xianzuan directly collided with the iron hammer and exploded. A shocking might wreaked havoc in the sky, and the martial artists of the Shui family who had surrounded him were all sucked into it on the spot, not even leaving behind a corpse.